Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday, January 10th. Happy New Year, everybody. Town of Somers Planning Meeting. My name is Vicki Gannon. John Curry could not be here. He asked me to chair tonight's meeting, and let's please start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hi, Steve. Steve, can you call the roll, please?
No problem. Chairman John Curry is absent. Vicki Gannon.
Here.
Nancy Garbino is absent. Jack Mattis.
Here.
Bruce Prince.
Here.
Chris Zaberto.
Here.
And first on our agenda are approval of the minutes. We received draft minutes for consideration, the minutes from December 13th, 2023. Any comments?
None.
Okay. All right. I move we approve those minutes as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Thank you. First item on our agenda after minutes is time extension for a Granite Point regrant of final subdivision approval, steep slopes, tree preservation, stormwater management, erosion, and sediment control permits. This is a request for the 26th 90-day time extension for the Granite Point subdivision, regrant of final subdivision approval, wetland, steep slopes, tree preservation, stormwater management, and erosion and sediment control permits, as per resolution 2017-10 from January 19th, 2024, up to and including April 17th, 2024, as per town law, section 276(7)C and town code section 150(13)M. The property is located on the east side of Route 118-202, adjacent to the Amawalk Reservoir, and is located in an R40 zoning district for the development of 23 lots in a cluster subdivision. We did receive a memo on this,
Yes,
and
yes, there was extension
right.
request, yes.
Any objections to extending?
No,
Okay.
We've been extending it for 6 years. Why stop now?
I move that we approve the extension. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Second item, the second time extension for this evening is Somers National Golf Course, 1000 West Hill Drive, site plan modifications. We had an item on the August 9th, 2023 Planning Board agenda to request a one-year extension from August 10th, 2023 until August 10th, 2024 for the approved site plan signature by the Planning Board Chair to meet the conditions of approval resolution number 2022-05 in accordance with Town Code Section 170.114K. The Planning Board at that time granted a 6-month time extension starting August 10th, 2023 until February 10th, 2024. We have a request for an additional 6-month time extension starting February 10th, 2024 until August 10th, 2024. Is Quentin available?
I am on the phone.
You're on the phone? Okay.
Yes.
And you have counsel here?
We should have counsel there representing us. Stephen, are you there?
Hey, Quentin, how are you?
Okay, so if the applicant
good,
could
good.
please present that, great.
Sure. So for the record, my name is Stephen Rabel. I'm with the law firm of McCullough, Goldberger, and Stout, Somers National Golf Club. As you noted, Board Member Gannon, we were here in August, at which time we received a 6-month extension. I'm sure the board will recall the discussion at that time pertained to some cleanup on the property, and I'm happy to report that the club has engaged in the cleanup process. They anticipate being completed this week or next. There was some slight delay due to the weather, but just to give you a rundown of what's been accomplished, general cleanup of garbage, paper, et cetera, has been completed on the site. Several pieces of old equipment have been removed. The club is currently waiting on a second dumpster to get rid of the remaining older equipment, and they expect that dumpster to arrive hopefully this week. Pavers and a portion of the blacktop has been removed. The remaining old blacktop will be removed as soon as the second dumpster arrives. And then some of the working equipment and some materials such as gravel, top dress, and sand, which have been cleaned up, are going to remain on site for use in the operation of golf course.
Thank you. And I think that the remarks that you've just made are echoing what we received in our email this afternoon, along with some photos,
Yes.
just for the record. We did receive that. Comments from the board?
None?
Okay. I move that we approve the request for the extension, additional 6-month time extension starting February 10th, 2024 until August 10th, 2024. I should say, excuse me, does staff have any concerns or objections? No.
No, ma'am.
Okay, so again, I move that we approve the request for an additional 6-month time extension starting February 10th, 2024 until August 10th, 2024. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any against?
Abstain.
Ooh,
You-
that's
well,
a problem.
Yeah.
You need 4 to move this positively. It's a 7-member board. You need 4. An abstention is as good as a no.
So what I would suggest, if the board, that the 4 of you cannot all vote tonight, is to carry this over to next month's agenda when you have a fuller board so that we can get the 4-member majority.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a motion that we table this for 30 days for the next meeting when we have a full quorum. That could vote.
It is.
Count, that's something we can do?
February
Yeah,
14th.
yes, because you haven't, you never.
Can I ask a
there's no
question?
vote.
Okay.
Can
I second your motion, Chris.
And that should also give additional time for the cleanup to be completed. You indicated that they're nearly done.
Yeah. And I think Dave,
Well, I think one of the questions I have now is because the next meeting is the 14th of February,
Mhm,
and the extension was supposed to start on February 10th.
mhm.
and
Not a problem.
That's a problem date-wise.
so
We need to open up
My,
the
my,
second
my-
meeting.
my suggestion would be maybe if I could speak. What about, Bruce, would you be amenable to a lesser extension so we can get this not to be in a catch-22 position? Council, what do you think? Is there any magic to 6 months and make it shorter, and maybe Mr. Prince would be amenable? I think the board can discuss that.
So I'll ask Quentin to confirm, but if it is the intention of the board to rehear this next month, a 1-month extension to get back on for the full extension request, I think would be sufficient from a procedural perspective.
I have a question. As of Friday, 5 days ago, a lot of this material had not been removed. I'd like to know why you waited 6 months to 5 days before, 4 days before this meeting to start removing material. Could somebody answer that question for me? Because I have pictures of what was there on Friday, Friday the 6th or 5th. There were a lot of this material was there. And I get some kind of explanation why they waited 5.5 before to remove it.
Quentin, I don't
So
know if you
Bruce-
want to weigh in.
Yeah, I will see. Thank you very much for the opportunity here. Bruce, this is something that we, again, have addressed over the course of the last 6 months, as you know, and you were correct in that, we had committed to get this cleaned up. The issue is that, we have been understaffed the entire season, and we just made it through the season barely with the staff that we had. So given the staffing problems, we had to wait till the end of the season to get started on the major project here. So that's the reason why we had to wait, as long as we did. But we were committed to get it done, and we said we would get it done. And I know, as Stephen highlighted, we are practically there, 95%. So the material you may have seen may have been in the dumpsters or near the dumpster, but we are waiting on that second dumpster to complete the project.
So Bruce, if
But,
we, if we do grant a 1-month extension, I think we can ask that the applicant give us an update, again, with photos that will show that everything that's remaining, that's been detailed in the email we received today, which you've reviewed, has been removed.
Okay, I can live with that.
Okay, all right, so it sounds like, so I'm going to make a motion that we make a 1-month extension of the time extension for the site plan signature, the approved site plan signature by the planning board to meet the conditions of approval resolution number 2022-05 in accordance with Town Code Section 170.114K. So you can expect to be on the February 14th agenda.
Yeah, so just to clarify,
Yep.
the extension would last or go until the next meeting, which would be February 14th. So it's technically,
A month.
So it's not
A
an
month.
extension to March 10th, it's an extension to February 14th.
that's
And just to make sure we're clear and that doesn't expire on the 14th,
correct.
should it be to the 15th so that it encompasses the meeting date?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And since it does tend to snow, if it was
Don't-
snow, then it would just, okay.
And maybe this is a question for council. I know other municipalities and the case law does allow that if the request is submitted prior to the expiration, some municipalities will allow an adjournment without an extension being granted. I don't know if that's the practice of the town of Somers. I don't know if that helps clear up the issue here. But I will, of course, defer to the board as to how it would like to proceed.
Yeah, that sounds like a reasonable course of action. So get the letter in well in advance.
Okay.
And you'll be on the agenda. We'll see you in February.
Do you have
Do I have a second on my motion, please?
15th?
15,
Extension to the 15th.
extension to 15 seconds.
We'll take Bruce's second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you, everybody, for helping make this work. Item number 3. Hello again. Public hearing for Glenida Realty Incorporated Site Plan Application 259-100. The applicant is proposing to demolish the existing abandoned family house and redevelop the site with high-end 2-story self-storage facility, approximately 22,400 square feet per floor, and associated site improvements. 15 parking spaces will be needed to serve the facility. The property is located on the west side of New York Route 100, approximately 2.28 acres in size, and is located in the OLI, Office and Light Industry Zoning District, and the Groundwater Protection Overlay District.
So good evening. And again, for Stephen Bray with McCullough Gold Stout. Now on behalf of Glenida Realty, I have with me tonight Rick Donardo from ownership and Ralph Alfonzetti, our civil engineer. So I know the board is familiar with the project, but in light of the fact that this is hopefully going to be an open public hearing this evening, I thought I'd give a little bit of background. So if, and I forget the gentleman's name in back, would not mind putting the presentation up?
Paul?
Paul.
There we go.
Thank you, Paul. As I believe you noted, Ms. Gannon, the property is currently improved with a heavily dilapidated single-family house, which has fallen into disrepair. And as the board may recall, over a year ago, we received zoning amendment approval to redistrict the site for multifamily development. And the multifamily development contemplated at the time was for 2 buildings, 24 total units, and 46 parking spaces. Since that zoning was approved, the applicant reconsidered what this property, what use might best serve this property, given its unique location between residential, industrial, commercial uses along Route 100. And they came to the conclusion that high-end self-storage would be a better fit for the property. So The property was rezoned once more to OLI, as you noted, and the current proposal is for a self-storage facility that is 2 floors in height and the exterior of which has been designed to look residential in character. So this is the same site plan that you saw last month. As you can see here, it's centrally located, and we've provided a full landscaping plan, particularly with regard to the neighbor in the rear, which is the adjacent residential property. I would note, you can see the note in red. We did receive several memos from your committees as well as county planning, one of which asked for all native species in the landscape plan. So if you'll see, we included both plans in our presentation tonight. The prior iteration was a mix of native and non-natives, but we can accommodate a full native planting plan, as you can see, as well as a portion of the pollinator pathway that was requested. So it's the board's choice which plan you'd like, if you would like to see. We can accommodate either way. The biggest change is probably from the green giant arborvitae along the Highview Court property line to eastern red and white cedar. So I'll pause there, and if you have any questions for us, we're happy to answer them. Otherwise, we would ask that the hearing be opened and we give the public the opportunity to speak.
You addressed the vegetation, and that was called out by the county planning department as well as a suggestion. But they had another suggestion. They numbered it 1, which they tagged as sidewalks. And they are suggesting that we consider requesting the addition of a sidewalk at the front of that wall, at the exterior of the building adjoining the roadway at Route 100. Just coincidentally, when there was an earlier proposal for a residential development on that property, I made that suggestion at a planning board meeting. So it's no surprise to me that the county is suggesting it. I did not encourage them to do so. But how do you feel about that?
And we weren't surprised to see it either. It's a fairly common comment from the county. Our feeling is that a sidewalk in this particular location, given this particular use, may not be the most important improvement, given that there's not going to be a lot of pedestrian activity to and from a self-storage facility. In talking with my client, my understanding is if a sidewalk were to be accommodated on the site, we would likely have to lose the wall to create enough space. So you'd lose that aesthetic improvement. But if the board felt strongly that a sidewalk was preferable, I think it is something that we could consider.
So you're saying we would need to lose the wall and not move the wall to accommodate a sidewalk?
That's my understanding.
It becomes a little challenging in front with the amount of space that we have left, knowing requirements that the state currently has for sidewalks and why they have to be set back. It's not something that we were to say we can't look further into. I just think in reality it's not going to benefit anybody because again, there's no pedestrian traffic coming out of this type of use of operation, and there really isn't any connection on either side.
Yeah, they're suggesting that it would then ultimately tie into a sidewalk, which runs over by by Froggy's, I guess, and toward the gas station. Whether that's a viable thing or not, I don't know.
Yeah, Jack, about 10 years ago, Somers participated in a complete streets study within the town. And I know this because I was chairman of that little working focus group as part of the Energy and Environment Committee. And while your points are accurate, currently we don't have any pedestrian traffic. Ultimately, the plan here is to design a network of sidewalks that would at some point in the future allow Somers to be a walkable town, walkable neighborhood. And so ultimately, we have to start somewhere. And, you know, for us to ask that new projects consider sidewalks, and this endeavor that the town has taken on that is adopted in our master plan is something that we'd like to ultimately do. We have a network of sidewalks in town that have been already laid. You've seen it here, certainly in the town center, and there have been developers who have worked with us on that. So I do respect and understand that the constraints from an engineering standpoint may be an issue here for you. We would ask that you at least look at it and let us know how much impact are we looking at to be able to put sidewalks in. Because ultimately there is a plan to connect Anglefly with the schools up into the center of town in 202. I mean, that's conceptual at this point, but ultimately that is something that we would like to do up 100 and a couple of different networks. The maps are available if anybody would ever want to review them. They're on file in the map room, actually.
Yeah, no, if I could just clarify, my point is, I'm not opposed to the sidewalk. As a matter of fact, I put more sidewalk.
Sorry, can you approach the podium, please, sir?
As
Thank
a
you.
matter of fact, we've put more sidewalks in the town of Somers than anybody. The majority of the sidewalks in the historic district, we've put them all in and we think they're great and they're appropriate and they're the perfect fit for that area. I just think this is too far out of the central focus of the hamlet of Somers. It's not practical. And if we're going to jeopardize the aesthetics of possibly putting the wall, which is really going to add to the gateway entrance into Somers, it's just my opinion that it's not the right move. But we respect the board, and if the board wants us to look further into this, by all means, we definitely will look into it.
Just take a look, and then we can debate that at the next hearing or meeting when you present that information, and we can work with there. But I just feel like we would do the town a disservice if we didn't at least explore it.
Right. And for those who may not be aware, if you look at the town board agenda for tomorrow night's meeting, on the agenda is applying for a grant to fund the building of a sidewalk to bring school traffic across in front of Heritage Hills main entrance. So there would be not a walkway, but the ability to push the button and cross for pedestrians. And there would be sidewalk added in front of that shopping center, trying to head down and adjoin with the sidewalk that runs toward Townhouse and yes, toward the center of town, which you've so nicely developed.
I'd like to ask a question. If, to Chris, if there's a plan for sidewalks, how come the development of, what is it, the 62 units, that were developed in, right after the downtown, Somers Commons, I guess it's called. How come that development didn't have any sidewalks?
This is on Route 6.
No, it's on Route 100.
Behind the Chicos.
There are sidewalks that were linked to that project. It's just the side of 100 they didn't do because of the wall. Similar. This is Boniello's project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah, but if you don't have sidewalks there, why are you asking these people to put in a sidewalk, a
I'm
mile?
not asking them to put it in, Bruce. I'm asking them to explore the concept so that we can stay in line with what the town's endeavor is, and that is to ultimately connect a network of sidewalks so that Somers could be more walkable.
And I misunderstand what you said about the Boniello development. Why wasn't that?
I'd have to go back to the record and see exactly why we didn't put that in as a stipulation. That's not always something that we as a board can do. But we can make suggestions, and if they can come back with engineering reasons why it can't happen, then it is of my opinion that I don't enforce it, but that's up to obviously our consulting engineer and our town planner.
Right. To my recall, and I attended those hearings before that project was developed and approved. The question was brought to the table, and there is a little sidewalk that runs from behind the Chicos down towards CVS that allows people to walk on the sidewalk past the post office, across to the Chase Bank, and there is ostensibly, and I have not personally gone and looked to see if it's there, an access point into that development. so that a person who's walking, who's doing their shopping on foot, could walk from those units all the way to here and then ultimately now push a button and continue through Heritage Hills.
I find that as a planning idea, that sounds very strange. That somebody's going to walk through a community on the streets of that community to go and get to the end of that community, which is going to leave you at the front of the police, state police, and where are you going to go from there? This
Nowhere yet, but that's the point of developing a plan to make, with time, passage of time, a complete sidewalk route.
But I think for something like this, progress is incremental, and we can't see what the final version of life is going to look like as we sit here today. All we can do is do our best, due diligence, to, as projects come up, to take a serious hard look at where it's possible to do that. I think it makes a lot of sense to be able to walk through the shopping center. I wouldn't want to be walking up on Route 100 with a lot of cars whizzing by. I think in that case, it's the best accommodation. So we look at each project, we evaluate it. If the applicant could please consider it, and let's just look at the data and the numbers instead of spinning our wheels and speculating. That will tell us more than anything else. So I would say, yes, if we can get some feedback, because we will have to hold over because we've got some open issues. And is there anything else that board members would like to say? Before we open to the public, I'd also like to hear staff and the public, if there's anybody here can benefit from anything has to say, comments.
Madam Chair, the only comment, the substantive comment that we had, the applicant has addressed with respect to the landscaping.
Okay, Steve.
I have reviewed our open comments with the engineer for the project and find that they've addressed our comments in, excuse me, not quite in full. There's a couple of minor comments that are open, but nothing that would keep the board from opening the public hearing, and all of those will either be addressed or conditions of a future resolution.
Okay, so is there anybody here from the public?
I do have planning, posting and publishing.
Oh, yes.
information for the public hearing. The legal notice for this was published in the Journal News on December 28th, 2023. The adjoining property owners were notified via mail on December 20th, 2023. And the sign stating the date and location of the public hearing was posted on the site on December 19th, 2023.
Do we have anybody from the public who would like to speak? Going once, going twice. Okay, so for today, if there's anybody at home who has a comment, you can certainly email right to us. We are going to have to hold the public hearing open. We have some items that were left. We need to hear there's some open items from the Fire Prevention Bureau.
The Fire Prevention, Open Space Committee, and the ARB are still continuing their review. So it'd be my suggestion just to hold open the public hearing until next month.
Right, but I think maybe if we could draft a resolution of approval so that we have something available. If you could also, in the meantime, submit any information you can get from your engineers for our staff to review about the possibility of a sidewalk, then we can all come together and discuss that again at the February meeting, and you'll be on the agenda.
Absolutely.
All right. Is there anything else that we'd like to do here? No. Okay, so we'll hold this public hearing open until the next meeting, and we'll see you in February.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Did I need to have a vote to draft that?
No.
Okay.
It's fine.
All right.
I get that all the time, but no, you're in general agreement.
Okay.
We'll have.
So next on our agenda is a project review for 2 Hagaman Court, steep slope protection, stormwater management, and erosion and sediment control and tree preservation application. Back again. Saw you last month. Happy New Year. The applicant is proposing to construct a single-family 3,528 square foot house with associated septic, well, and stormwater improvements. The property is located at 2 Hagaman Court in an R80 zoning district. Welcome. Could you please identify yourself?
Good evening, Rick Bolander. I'm the engineer on the 2 Hagman Court project. Since the last time we were in front of you last year, we have received comments from Woodard and Curran, minor comments, some notes, landscaping plan. The comments have been addressed. The plans I'm showing right now reflect the changes. And I sent Wendy an updated set with the requested documents and requested updated plans. The only document missing is the stormwater pollution prevention plan. The plans have been updated per the new stormwater design. On the older plans, we were showing 8 740 unit storm tech chambers to capture roof runoff. We've added 1, so there's 9. And then there was 1 unit at the end of the driveway to collect runoff that we couldn't bring back into the system adjacent to the garage. We've also added a unit there. So there's 11 units instead of the 9 that were originally shown on the plan. And the SWIP is 80% done, just kind of going through and making sure, just crossing my T's and dot my I's, and we'll be able to submit that probably not this week, but early next week.
Okay. Dave, Steve.
I have no comments.
Thank you for your response to our comments. I had a chance to quickly go through it. I obviously haven't back checked and cross-referenced, but it looks like you've addressed it. And the timing of that SWIP being next week is appreciated. So that'll get it done and enable us to review it and get any comments that we have on that back to you prior to the next meeting. Can you, for the board and any public that might be watching, give us a sense of the water flow on the site? You obviously have there's a big wetland property. There's probably a reason this is the last property on the site to be developed. Kind of where water's going, how that will compare pre and post development.
So where I chose to position the house is essentially I'll call it the valley of the site, sandwiched in between 2 high points, one located right about here, and then another high point here. Runoff drains from this high point towards the valley again. And obviously from this high point towards the residence, with this portion essentially here draining into a New York State wetland that is on site. As I mentioned, that runoff makes its way towards the residence and then is conveyed through inlets that were built as part of the subdivision, and that runoff is then conveyed into the wetland. So essentially everything is draining into the wetland, just has different routes of getting there.
And so by your analysis, what does the pre and post runoff volume look like for the site? Designs.
So we are reducing both the volume and the runoff by about 10% for the analyzed storms, for the 1-year storm event, for the 10-year storm event, and the 100-year storm event, by about 5% with our 9-unit system and our 2-unit storm tech chamber system.
And so that storm tech chamber that last one at the end of the driveway is capturing what area?
That's capturing, just because of grading and inverts, it's capturing, I'll call it half the driveway that's draining towards Hagman Court. So before it gets to it's collected by an inlet into the system.
So it's picking up the driveway runoff before it hits the street.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you for reviewing that. I appreciate it. The footing drain Can you talk about where that's going and what that's picking up? We talked a little bit about it last time, but that's kind of the area that's getting into the wetland itself with that temporary disturbance.
So you could see right in this area right here, this is a pipe that's collecting the footing drains and outletting it towards the wetland. And I've begun discussions with my contact at the DEC about that. We will need to fill out an Article 24 permit for that. But because of, it's only a couple 100 feet of disturbance, we don't anticipate that being a problem.
They're not requiring any mitigation or anything like that.
No, they weren't, my one contact wasn't, I'll say ecstatic about the idea, but it's, it makes sense to me and to the homeowner. So we'll go through the process of the Article 24.
Okay. I don't have any other comments unless the board has any questions for me.
Any board comments or questions?
No.
Can you just elaborate slightly on Article 24, what that accomplishes with the state? For those that may not know.
So it's the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation freshwater wetlands permit application. So it's essentially, we'll be submitting the plans, the same plans that we've submit to the town of Somers. It will review that. Obviously, it's associated with its fees and the application, but it's essentially just pretty much the same as a wetland permit in any municipality. There's nothing really.
And that has to happen because that's designated New York State DEC wetlands.
Absolutely. So we are disturbing within the 100-foot buffer that's associated with the DEC wetland.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Should we, do you think, Steve, we have enough information that at this point in time, we could schedule a public hearing?
I do with the applicant's response, and I did have a chance to go through it. I think that the environmental impacts of the project are disclosed and the project's not likely to change significantly. So I think a public hearing can be opened.
Okay, board members, do you agree we have enough information to schedule a public hearing?
Yeah.
Okay, do we have room on the agenda to do that in February on the 14th? Okay, I move that we schedule a public hearing for Wednesday, February 14th, our next meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second Madam Chairwoman's motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
See you in.
I don't think my wife would be too happy about
And join the club.
Yeah.
That makes all of us. Yeah, all right.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good evening. See you next.
Just to get out of dinner.
You want March? You can do March. Yeah. Yeah, first. Yep.
Okay. Number 5 on our agenda is a referral to the planning board from the town board. And this is, there's a request to amend the Town of Somers zoning map, a petition for request by North Edge Realty Residential Development. This is a referral of a petition request by North Edge Realty Residential Development for the proposed zoning map amendment to allow for the construction of 77 multifamily housing units, inclusive of 15% affordable units within, along with recreation amenities located at 29, 43, and 45 New York Route 6 and 5 County Line Road to rezone from an existing R40 and R80 resident district to multifamily residence Baldwin Place MFR-BP district.
Good evening. Happy New Year, everybody. Tim Allen, Pibbo Associates, representing North Edge Realty. With me is Gus Boniello, Jared Boniello, the owners and applicants of this project. We are here before you tonight as a referral from the town board. We've been with the town board for quite some time now, working on this project to allow the MFR Baldwin Place overlay to be applied to this property. It meets all the requirements of the MFR BP, the distance to the from the center of Baldwin Place. It's located on Route 6. It checks all the boxes in terms of meeting that requirement. Having said that, the property is located just west of the intersection of Mayapack Avenue, just downhill from the toolbox and the commercial developments at the corner there. through the town board, we've had discussions about unit counts. We've actually come through and we're able to provide a second access through the church property to the what is the east side of the property to alleviate any to reduce turning movements on the Route 6 on and off. The property is proposed to be 77 units of fee simple housing. We just had a little discussion about Somers Crossing. The models and housing is going to mimic that exactly as proposed. So what you see at Somers Crossing will be very similar to what you see here in terms of the development of this property. And the discussion on sidewalks through the town board, we've also discussed sidewalks along Route 6, ultimately, hopefully get them down past Windsor and towards Yorktown. So there will be a sidewalk up to the corner of Mayapack Avenue proposed. The project will be serviced by sewer and water. It's currently in the water district. We're working on getting into the sewer district. That's an important part of the project. Again, 77 units, splits of 3s and 2-bedroom units, very similar to what we did at Somers Crossing. So if you're looking for, what the Bonnie L's have done similar, that's right there.
I think I wanted to say also that we're receiving this as a referral from the town board. They're acting as lead agency, which is customary when there's a request for change in zoning. Makes perfect sense. And as we're looking at it, this is a great opportunity for us to give some initial feedback and hear some initial thoughts on what you're doing. We understand we don't have the level of detailed site plan, but I really welcome everybody to pitch in and give thoughts about what they think looks, good or ideas you have about the project as we're looking at it now. It's a good moment in time to be giving input. So.
Yeah, and that's our point of being here was that, it's introductory certainly. But we will be spending a lot of time with this board, as you know. So we want to make sure you knew what the project was. One thing I did want to mention also, in working with the town board, we had discussed what would be known as a community benefits project will be associated with this. And we've come up with which will be probably well over $1 million of work that'll be done at the Anglefly Preserve to remove the old condos that were built back in the 70s. That is part of the community benefits package that's before the town board. And that project consists of taking out the buildings, demoing them, returning the site basically to existing grade, and taking on any risk of what the buildings may or may not have in them. And certainly North Edge Realty is prepared to do that as part of this project. Similarly, when we did Somers Crossing, there were other aspects of community benefits that the Bonnie Ellis had performed. And on this project, we fully intend to focus on the Anglefly as the fix up and cleanup of something that was done. Again, those units, I was a young college guy when those units went up. I think it was late 70s. They've just been an eyesore and been sitting there rotting for years and years. So it'll really be a benefit to the Anglefly Preserve in the town of Somers as a whole. And the cost of removal will be on the applicant as opposed to the town. So that's a part of the package, which is more on the town board level, but nonetheless, I did want to bring it up as an important part of this project.
Any initial comments?
So, Madam Chair, the referral from the town board was a notice of intent to act as lead agency. So the town board is asking, as required by seeker, to notify all the other interested and involved agencies. The town has heard back from DOT, New York City, DEP, and Westchester County, none of whom have objected to the town board acting as lead agency. I'm assuming that you have no objection to the planning board having no objection to the town board acting as.
I think you're assuming correctly. We have no objection to the town acting as lead.
Right. So the other part of this is, as you explained, there's an opportunity here at least to provide some initial feedback, not only to the applicant, but to the town board as to some of your comments, the things that the applicant should be made aware of, or things they should focus on going forward as part of the environmental review, and it ultimately as part of the site plan review.
So you'll take any comments and questions.
Correct.
You'll be our scribe.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. So my colleagues, any questions? Yes.
Comments more than questions. There is public transportation at that intersection, I believe, at Mayapack Ave and Route 6. So that's a good feature of this development of residential housing. In addition, assuming that in the next couple of years, the project on the other side of the Stop and Shop shopping center gets developed, a different developer. Again, that's housing, and part of their package to the town, much as you're doing the cleanup at Anglefly, is proposed to be an activities building, which would then be turned over and become a property of the town of Somers. So it would be open to all residents of Somers, including the residents who would ostensibly be occupying this development. So I think that's beneficial for all. And if they've got dogs and they don't want to necessarily go on the trail, there will also be a dog park as a component of that proposed development. Again, that would become part of the town of Somers, so it would be open to all residents. I think there are a lot of things to look at in the development of this particular area of our town.
Tim, can I ask a question? The road that's running up to Mayapack Avenue, is that planned to be dedicated to the town eventually?
No, that's through an easement from the church,
Even for the church?
but it'll be to town road standards.
Okay, and what is it contemplated if there's so you have maybe children living there and there's a school bus, does the school bus run through the development, or does everybody pick up the school bus at the front? Has there been any thought as to how that would work?
That's to be determined.
To be
I
determined.
would imagine they're not going to pick them up on Route 6. If you recall, I think we had that discussion through the planning process at Somers Crossing. They do come into Somers Crossing.
Okay,
We also had a long discussion, and thank you, Jack. I forgot to mention the public transportation aspect. That's part of the ball in place.
Right.
It's in the master plan also. The school buses, we will, we'll flush that out. But certainly I doubt they're going to be picking up school kids on Route 6. We did have a discussion with the town board and looking back at Somers Crossing. There are minimal school children in Somers Crossing. It's really young starters and empty nesters that moved in there. There are no restrictions on who can and can't move into these, but we would assume that given the similar construction and what have you, that will get us basically the same dynamic of occupants of this development as we did at Somers Crossing.
and then two, how does the affordable units, how do they get distributed throughout this overall layout?
There'll be the interior units. If you see, for instance, a 4-unit, there'll be the interior units. There'll be 2 bedrooms, but they will be distributed throughout the site.
And they're all 2-bedroom units, the affordables?
Yes,
Okay. Do they all have garage?
yes, they all have garages.
Okay.
Was this parcel in front of our board about 8 months ago for a lot line change?
Yes. Yes,
That was all part of this.
that's been filed and
Yeah.
complete.
All right, I remember that now. It's, yeah, the tool nut is on that corner.
Correct.
Any recreational facilities on that property for the occupants of the?
We have a recreation building at the entrance, which will be similar to what we did at Somers Crossing.
No pool?
What's that?
No pool?
No pool.
How much visitor parking how is visitor parking distributed? Are those the parking spots that I'm seeing over by the property that runs through the church property? Are those visitor parking there? I mean,
Yeah, we have,
it's because it just looks like some of the units.
fairly extensive throughout. As best we could fit them, there's large section of visitor parking here. I think in the next iteration, we plan will have some more on the interior.
Yeah, I think it needs to be a little more evenly distributed because, you know, when you have multi-generation families, the need for people to be able to drop off pickup, family gatherings. Yeah,
We internally had that discussion probably a couple weeks ago after we left the town board and through the operation, we're gonna be looking at particularly the units up in front. They're a little lacking in visitor parking.
I think so, yeah. Don't mean to hog the mic, everybody else, please. Bruce, any thoughts?
Looks
Anything? Okay. Any thoughts, Chris? Okay.
No, I mean, I think we need to just vote on unanimous approval of the town board being lead. See, right? That was the agenda for today.
Okay,
And then
I second that motion.
yeah, I would too. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Good
Look
luck.
forward to seeing you.
We'll see you in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, your site plans. I'd be interested in
Thank you.
picking it apart. Thank you.
And we had one more item I think that Dave wanted to discuss.
Yes, we had gotten some emails from one of the property owners. If you remember at the last meeting, 8 Anita Drive and 4 Anita Drive. And the 4 Anita Drive is under contract to be purchased. And so they're waiting for the plat to be signed by Westchester County, and it's just time sensitive. So once it's signed, they want to bring it to the town to have the town sign it, and then it's recorded, and then they can finalize their real estate transaction. So the question was, all right, John is out of the town. So in the interim, is there somebody designated on the planning board who can sign the plat on behalf of the Somers Planning Board? So I raised this issue with Jerry, with council. And so I guess procedurally, I don't know that there's any protocol in place, but my suggestion would be that you're here as a board constituted right now, and that you, if you so desire, you could designate somebody to sign the plat in John's absence until such time as he returns. So, and Vicky, you're the interim chair, so you may be designated as the.
I think I'll make the motion that as I'm sitting here designated interim chair, that I should be enabled to sign that plat, just as discreet for that item, sign that plat in John's absence if it should need to be done.
Right.
And I would second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. This is just in case something happens. And as I mentioned to Vicky earlier and to Jerry, at the next meeting, maybe we'd want to have a discussion about what happens in the future with this type of situation. So there's a protocol in place.
Most important thing is that
Yeah, exactly.
that
Yeah.
member of the community shouldn't have some kind of financial burden, you know.
Right.
So we'll work it out.
Great. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome. So our next planning board meeting, if you had missed it, is scheduled for Wednesday, February 14th at 7:30 PM here at Town Hall. I make a motion that we adjourn.
second.
Second that.
All in